welcome to this News Mobile special. I am Saurabh Shukla. I have a very esteemed doctor joining me, Dr. Darrell Demello from Mumbai. Dr. Demello, welcome to News Mobile. And today
thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you, doctor. And today we are going to talk about some frequently asked questions about COVID. For the viewers, I myself a COVID recovered patient, and doctors like Dr. Demello have been really very, very helpful in making sure that my recovery has been smooth. And today we are going to talk to the doctor about how you can make sure that if you have any symptoms, you can immediately go to a doctor and make sure that you get cured of COVID, because COVID is curable. Dr. Demello, my first question to you: what is the symptoms of the new strain that somebody should immediately report to a doctor or should be alarmed about? What are 2 or 3 symptoms of the new strains? You have treated a lot of COVID patients.
The new strains that we have today are less virulent, they're less potent, so they cause less symptoms. So you may get just a plain backache or a headache or a body ache or malaise or lethargy. That's the symptom you need to report. Don't wait till you get high fever or you start getting breathless. That's too late. Because for me and for all of us who treat COVID, this is a 14-day disease. The 14-day disease starts on day 1, on the first day of your first symptoms. And if you come with fever, it could be day 7, it could be day 6. Clotting starts on day 8 to 10. So that's something we need to be careful of. This is a clotting disease. So let's, if you really want to look at first symptoms, start with the first symptom. Whatever symptom you get, talk to one of us.
So are you saying that, even with a minor symptom, you must make sure that at least you should consult a doctor and then go in for a RT-PCR test as soon as possible?
My approach is treat first, test later. That's my mantra. Okay.
Yeah, because obviously a lot of patients who are asymptomatic, families, they have been patients who are turning with a negative report, yet they demonstrate symptoms.
The first symptoms, whatever it may be, whether it's diarrhea, whether it's vomiting, whether it's nausea, whether it's just body ache and headache and malaise. I had a guy who just had malaise. He came to me on so-called day 3 of his fever, high fever, but his oximeter reading, his oxygen saturation reading was down to 89. And, that was day 9 of his. When I actually sat with him, it was day 9. So talk to a doctor who does COVID so I understand and actually fix your day 1, because then it's all dependent on the timeline. It's a 14-day timeline. If you have the timeline right, you can treat right.
Right. What about patients who have recently recovered from COVID? What is your advice to them? Are there any particular timeline that you would say they should watch out for? Should they be watching out for their oxygen saturation? Anything else? What's your advice?
Once they're through the first 14 days, this is, like I said, a 14-day disease. The next 15 or 16 days, when I go to the 1-month time frame, is what I call acute COVID. Okay, the acute COVID phase is 14 days plus 16 days, so 1 month. After that is the post-COVID scenario of day 31 to day 90 could be considered the post-COVID. My advice to people is for the first month, including your 14 days, do not exercise, do not overdo your life, do not drink liquor, do not drink cough syrups, anything that contains alcohol, anything that can harm your body, don't do it. Because you're safer off if you don't have, your body's already gone through a storm, a major cytokine storm. It's like a tsunami. It's wiped you out. You don't want to carry that forward in life and will have big organ damage. So I really tell people for the first 30 days, take it easy in life. You can start walking, start running, start doing everything in stages as you go along on the second month, which means from day 31 onwards.
Right. That's a good advice, doctor. What about, there have been cases, a lot of people are experiencing something which is called the long COVID. What are some of these telltale signs that one should watch out for?
Long COVID symptoms, again, for me, long COVID, the way I define long COVID is something beyond 6 months. The nice thing about India is we treat early. In the West, we do not treat early. We treat very late. We just say take your paracetamol, take your vitamin, go home. If your oximeter reading drops, then come and see us in the emergency ward. So the challenge in the West is because they don't treat early, they're having a larger incidence of post-COVID, so long-haul symptoms. Long haul is truly something beyond 6 months. Post-COVID, you can manage it within the first 3 months. My objective when I treat early upfront in the first 14 days is to prevent anybody from having a post-COVID symptom, even if it's for 3 months or 6 months, because should you have a liver problem, should you have a heart problem, should you have a lung problem, I want to fix that in 90 days so that you have a stress-free, no COVID damage for the rest of your life. Whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 70 years old, it doesn't matter to me. I will make sure your lungs are pristine clear, your heart inflammation has come down, your liver inflammation has come down, your GI tract is working well, and we go forward from there. So,
well, a lot of parents are watching this interview today. What is your advice to them? What are the kind of precautions they should take with children?
With children, I'd be careful about, especially the young children between the age of 10 and 18. Don't ignore them because they can carry forward. Not only they can have problems of clotting and die of heart attacks and all that stuff, but they can carry forward long COVID symptoms. Because sometimes you think that, a 14-year-old should not have a problem, but he or she can have a problem. Okay. The younger children, and I've treated all the way from day 3 to year 9 and 10. The younger children usually escape with a very light attack. Very light COVID attack. They've got much better resilience than the older children. So for children, I really tell people, don't worry about your children unless you have things like red toes or something really serious. Talk to a doctor about what your child has. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Your child has innate immunity. They have an ability to bounce back quickly. However, watch for long-term symptoms. If their symptoms get prolonged beyond the 14 days, talk to one of us. We'll try and help you out.
Right, Doctor. Now, Doctor, black fungus is really hitting with a vengeance now. A lot of people are concerned about it. What are some of the signs that one should be watching out for, especially with patients who have some comorbidities like and also disease like diabetes?
Anything connected with the ear, nose, and throat. So ENT problems. You can have, snot coming out of your nose. You can have black stuff in your throat. You can have breathing problems. You can have all kinds of things in your nose, ears, nose, and throat. Okay, so ENT problems. They are the first. They should be the first. The ENT specialist should be the first point of contact for black fungus. The causes of black fungus. Black fungus is mold. Is black mold. You see it in your house. It's commonly there. It is the immune compromised patients that get black fungus. It's not the general population. Steroids are a great product to use for immune suppression, but indiscriminate use of steroids can cause black fungus. Okay, there's a theory doing the rounds today about zinc. We've never used so much of zinc in our lives, but the overuse of zinc could contribute to this. So there are a lot of ifs and buts. I don't have answers to identify what could be the causes of it, but if you do think you've got black fungus, please talk to your doctor and get an ENT opinion so we can then treat you for that.
Sure. And how important is diet when it comes to both COVID recovered patient and during COVID as well?
During COVID, it is paramount. It's very, very important to manage your diet. COVID causes inflammation of your whole body. I use the word swelling. Inflammation is swelling. The nervous system is inflamed from head to toe. And the central nervous system or the brain loses control of the gut. So, if you take food that your body cannot process, you get diarrhea, you get vomiting. Okay, you can get worse things than that. However, we want food that is processed and absorbed quickly. So I normally recommend soft foods, dal khichdi, curd rice, juices, soups, liquids, water, electrolyte, anything that can be absorbed quickly from the gut without putting pressure on the gut to process it. So hard things like parathas is kind of a ban for me. Meats are banned for me. I really recommend to my patient not to get into stuff that the intestines have to process to be able to absorb that food.
And obviously no processed foods, and because a lot of patients, one of the things that we've been receiving is that they end up ordering out because they don't have home cooked food, because most members are in isolation. So that's something which obviously, as you say, we have to bear in mind. What about in families, we have seen that few members of the family test negative. They may not be showing any symptoms. So are you suggesting that they should be also consulting a doctor, and they should make sure that there are some testings which happen to make sure that they rule out any COVID or post-COVID symptoms?
Now, my mantra is treat first, test later. I treat the whole family. If you have one proven patient in the family, when you live together, in India, we all live together. We don't live in separate houses or separate rooms as a family. Okay, so
Right.
whatever the members of the family, I tend to assume that and work with the concept that if there's one patient, he or she has infected everybody else in the house. Okay, one patient with symptoms proven by RT-PCR or not, or clinically determined by me that this patient has COVID, I will automatically treat the whole family. The dosage may be reduced, but by doing that, the surprising part of it, by doing that, I sanitize the whole family. I'm going to use word like sanitization. I sanitize the whole family, prevent them from getting symptomatic. And then when I do the COVID antibody blood test at the end of 1 month, it's surprising to see that many times all the family members are COVID. So they've all developed COVID without them knowing about it, or by them being asymptomatic. So I think that strategy has been borne out with the last 1 year of treatment that I've done, a little more than 13, 14 months of treatment I've done, where I've treated whole families. And thank God for that, because many of them have become COVID antibody positive.
Excellent, doctor. And how important or critical is to maintain and also check your oxygen saturation levels even after you've recovered?
Actually, it's not after you've recovered. After day 14, it's really not required.
Okay.
I tell my patients day 15 onwards, you do not need to do it. You do not need to come back to me. It's those patients. If you're talking post-COVID, post 14 days, it's only those who have, say, had major clotting, where they've had inadequate anti-clotting drugs in the hospital and they come out of hospital on day 14, 15, 16, where I could anticipate a rebound clotting. You could get rebound clotting. So in those patients, I really want to monitor certain things. But in the acute COVID phase, day 1 to 14, I wanted 3 or 4 times a day. In my SOPs, my standard operating protocols that I give patients, I wanted 4 times a day. Right. 1 in the morning at 8, one in the afternoon at 2, 1 at 6 p.m. and 1 at 10 p.m. before they go to sleep. Because that gives me, the oxygen saturation gives me what's happening in their lungs. Right. There's nothing, as a telemedicine specialist, there's nothing else I can depend upon other than your heart rate or pulse rate and your oxygen saturation rate besides your temperature. Temperature, I don't worry about. The hard data point for me is the oxygen saturation rate. That's very important for me when I treat patients.
Yeah. One last question, doctor, before I let you go. How long should you wait for your second dose of a vaccine if you've had COVID?
There is a paper out of the US recently which said if you've had the first dose of the vaccine and then you've got COVID, you really don't need the second dose. If I had to advise somebody, I'd say go by what the government of India regulations are or the ICMR regulation are. Today it's 3 months. Tomorrow it could be 6 months or 12 months. I don't know what the ICMR changes will be. Whatever it is, follow the local laws. My advice to every patient for any little thing is follow the local laws. Yes. Don't try and change. Don't try and do it on your own. Follow the local laws. You're better off doing it that way.
Absolutely. And one more thing on vaccines as well. And if you have, obviously, a lot of people get antibody tests done. If you have sufficient antibodies, how long usually, in your experience, does it last?
In my experience, I've seen it last as long as 9 months. From the data, I'm looking at 8 months and 9 months. The published data, when I review published data, it's somewhere between 8 and 9 months. Those are the antibodies. What are the antibodies? They're basically your forward jawans, your forward soldiers. Right. Behind those antibodies, you have something called B cells and T cells. In layman terms, those are your battalions and your tanks.
Right.
So those are great things to have to protect your body from the future. Okay, so it's all about, our end goal is to protect ourselves, protect our bodies from future infections.
Okay. Dr. Demello, thank you so much for talking to News Mobile. You are I would say, the real COVID warriors. Thank you so much for treating so many patients. And I hope all of you who are watching this heard doctors advise that COVID is completely curable. You just have to make sure that you have to speak to your doctor in time, and also make sure that you maintain social distancing, ensure masking wherever you are, and I'm sure together we can defeat COVID. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching News Mobile, and do go to www.newsmobile.in for our continued coverage on COVID and beyond.